Welcome to this explainer. Listen, if you've ever felt like your own brain is actively working against you, I promise you, you are absolutely not alone. Today, we're diving into a massive, total paradigm shift on how to break those unhelpful loops and build some genuine mental strength. So, let's get right into it. It's a question so many of us ask, right? We get intensely frustrated with our own minds, whether it's the constant overthinking, sudden spikes of anxiety, literally zero ability to focus, endless procrastination, or just that really harsh negative self-talk. It is incredibly easy to conclude that your brain is the problem, that you are basically locked in a cage match with your worst enemy. It's a struggle we all face, for sure, but it is fundamentally based on a total misunderstanding of what our brains are actually doing. And this right here completely flips the script. Your brain is often just producing automatic responses based on learning, attention, emotion, and perceived threats. That's it. Now, an automatic response might be wildly unhelpful in our modern world, but your brain isn't your enemy. It's just a protector that simply hasn't been trained for the situation you're putting it in. So here is our exact step-by-step roadmap for today. 1. Stop fighting your mind. 2. Thoughts are not decisions. 3. Train attention and emotions. 4. Systems beat pure motivation. And 5. Your daily training system. Okay, section 1. Stop fighting your mind. Shifting the perspective. Think about the difference between an untrained and a trained mind. The untrained mind asks, why is my brain against me? It's playing the victim. But a trained mind takes a step back and asks, okay, what pattern has my brain learned here, and how can I train a better response? True mental strength begins the exact moment you stop treating every passing thought as a command and start treating your mind as something you can observe, practice with, and just gently guide. Moving on to section 2. Thoughts are not decisions. De-identifying with the inner voice. Just because an automatic thought pops into your head, like let's say, I'm definitely gonna fail at this, that does not make it a fact. Thoughts appear automatically, especially when we're under stress. So try using this really simple 3-step framework. First, notice. Just spot the thought without immediately fighting it or panicking. Second, question. Ask yourself if this thought is actually accurate or even useful. And finally, choose. Decide what your next physical action will be, completely regardless of what the thought was screaming at you. So why do unhelpful patterns keep coming back anyway? Well, because the mind learns through repetition. Think about the last time you promised to sit down and do your taxes, but somehow ended up organizing your entire sock drawer instead. Avoiding the hard task creates immediate relief. Your brain registers that relief as a reward, which keeps that unhelpful habit totally alive and well. To break the pattern, you have to tolerate the initial discomfort of the task so you can practice a completely different response. All right, section 3. Train attention and emotions. Tactics for the heat of the moment. We have to remember that attention is a strictly limited resource. In a world completely full of constant notifications, conflicts, and just endless entertainment, sustained work is incredibly hard. But training your attention is actually pretty straightforward. You choose one task, give it a short period of focus, and when your mind inevitably wanders, and trust me, it will, you simply notice it and return to the task. The secret sauce here? Do it without insulting yourself. Every time you gently pull your focus back, you are quite literally getting a repetition in the training process. It's like doing a bicep curl for your brain. And what about overthinking? Man, overthinking is just an endless, exhausting loop. Thinking is really only useful when it produces understanding or action. You absolutely have to separate the two. If a problem is actionable, well, identify the facts and take the next step. Actually, scratch that. Just take the smallest possible next step. But for unresolvable uncertainty, you must practice acceptance. You literally have to accept that complete certainty simply isn't available right now and deliberately break that loop. When emotions run really high, try leaning on this 5-step framework. Pause, breathe comfortably, name the emotion, identify the trigger, and then choose your action. Doing this proves a really vital point to your brain. Anger can be present without requiring you to be aggressive. Fear can be present without requiring you to avoid things. The emotion is very real, yes, but your response to it, that is completely trainable. Let's dive into section 4, Systems Beat Pure Motivation, the architecture of success. So many of us rely entirely on motivation. But let's be real, motivation fluctuates based on what you ate, how you slept, or just your current mood. Discipline, on the other hand, grows. It grows through repetition and taking action based on your actual values, even when your enthusiasm is sitting firmly at 0. Promising yourself 10 focused minutes instead of a grueling 2-hour marathon, that builds lasting discipline over fleeting motivation. Because look, mental training isn't just about raw, white-knuckle willpower, it's heavily about your environment. Take a look at your own workspace right now. If you repeatedly lose the battle against distraction, don't beat yourself up or blame a lack of focus. Redesign your environment. Put useful actions closer to you, put distractions way further away. And for the love of everything, silence those unnecessary notifications. Make the right choice the easy choice. Now, when things inevitably do go wrong, because let's face it, they will, you have to retrain your inner voice to turn failure into feedback. A harsh, sweeping statement like, "I'm useless," turns a single, isolated event into a permanent judgment on your identity. Instead, separate your identity from the behavior. Say something like, "Okay, that attempt did not work. What can I change for next time?" You essentially replace shame with responsibility, which vastly improves your very next attempt. All right, finally, Section 5, your daily training system, putting it all into practice. Here is what the chronology of a trained day actually looks like. In the morning, you don't overwhelm yourself with a massive to-do list. You choose just one important action. During work, you utilize short, focused sessions, gently returning your attention whenever it wanders off. When stress hits you during the day, you use your pause framework to separate facts from wild assumptions. And in the evening, you do a quick review. One win, one mistake, and one adjustment for tomorrow. The brain learns and adapts through this exact repeated daily experience. If you really want to accelerate this, you could try a 30-day mind training challenge. The trick is you don't try to fix the whole shebang on day 1. Days 1 through 7 are purely about awareness. You're just recording your recurring thoughts and triggers almost like a scientist. Days 8 through 14 focus strictly on attention. Then you move to discipline by keeping just one small daily promise to yourself. And finally, days 22 through 30, you bring in the emotional control framework. You go step by step from mere awareness all the way to full control. To support that entire journey, here are 7 quick daily practice questions. You can fire these off immediately in your head whenever you feel overwhelmed, just to ground yourself. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What facts do I actually know? What am I just assuming? What is actually within my control here? What is the absolute smallest useful action I can take? And what will I practice tomorrow? These questions basically act like a circuit breaker, guiding your mind right out of a spiraling, unhelpful loop. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful insight. Your mind does not need your hatred, it needs your training. And if there's one thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this. You do not have to defeat your mind. It's not a flawless machine, right? It's shaped by your experiences, your habits, and your environment. You might not control the very first thought that pops into your head, but you absolutely can practice choosing what you do next. So, as we wrap things up today, I want to leave you with this one thought. If your mind is simply a reflection of how you've trained it so far, what version of yourself are you going to start training tomorrow? Pick one small system, one short, focused session, or just one emotional pause. Step into the training ground and take your mind back.